Story. Joining us now to discuss Jeff Sika, Scott Martin, Ashley Webster. All right, guys. Right now, I don't think the market is reacting to the president's threat of additional tariffs. Scott, would you suggest that this is either priced into the market or when we do the math, because I think we articulate this wrong. To be honest with you, we always talk about the $200 billion number. What we're really talking about is an additional $20 billion potential tax on American consumers.
Yeah, the numbers get a little skewed, and I'll tell you, I mean, what is priced in, certainly, Charles, already is the impact to China. I mean, if you just look at the Chinese stock market alone, down about 25% from the highs this year, you've got an impact there already. And I think you're right. I think that a lot of this rhetoric is kind of going on and on and on. You know, this is kind of like being on a merry-go-round. And what happens now is that I think as we get, this deal done with Mexico, we get a deal done with China here in the next month, and maybe a deal done with Canada in the next month rather than China by the midterms, you're going to see the market kind of take a relief rally here. But so far, I think the progress that's been made is, say, keeping the market afloat because of the fact that there's hope or better times ahead with respect to hope of a deal.
You know, Charles, it's almost like the markets have become numb to this. They do believe, I think, that eventually it's going to get sorted out. China just said, we're not going to negotiate this latest round if we have a gun to our head. And they may have a point there because the U.S. has been very strong and will continue to be strong. But I think overall the market is not reacting big time because I don't think they believe that it's going to be pushed over the cliff, that at some point an agreement will be reached.
And, China, I know that they're saying there's a gun to their head, but the fact of the matter is, and that's good for public consumption, certainly in China, but even in this country where a lot of the media doesn't want Trump to succeed no matter what he's doing, because, all you got to do is Google this stuff, and there was a time when a whole lot of people who are against this were for this, but nevertheless, Jeff, it's interesting because the market has done very well from the March 23rd low. We have been in a stealth rally. And last quarter, American corporations had over $2 trillion in profit. So a potential $20 billion in tax on these goods, because that's essentially what we're talking about. Could that derail the market or our economy?
I think it could, and I think, I agree with what both of you are saying. What Scott's saying is that there is an anticipation, ignorance is bliss. There is an anticipation that there will not be an escalation. The threats have been basically a paper tiger to the market. So, but what I do see is if Beijing follows up with taxes on autos and any threat against Apple, we will see an escalation in consumer prices that could possibly erase a lot of the benefit of the tax cuts. That's my concern. Right now, the market doesn't anticipate
To put it in perspective, though, I did the math. On Apple alone, from repatriation, if you say Apple has $200 billion offshore, from repatriation, they save $39 billion. In the June quarter, because of the difference in tax rate, they saved $1.3 billion. Essentially, we're talking about one single company saving $45 billion versus overall tariffs, this latest round being $20 billion. One company alone saving $45 billion. So $20 billion could really derail our economy?
The repatriation changes everything. We have to see the repatriation come to fruition in a way that it negates any effect of the tariffs. But when it comes down to it, is if Beijing does not back off, there's an anticipation they will back off. If they don't back off, we will have a sentiment problem, we will have a psychology problem, and we may lose some momentum.
All right, let's talk about Amazon. They're investigating employees leaking data for bribes. The data to help merchants increase their sales on a website. Ashley, you got to walk us through this one more time.
It's quite fascinating because
it really is.
Apparently the workers in China for Amazon are lower paid. So they're always looking a way to make a buck. One of the ways they're doing this is selling inside information, internal metrics, but also maybe they can start deleting negative product reviews. Maybe they can start pushing up a merchant's product further up. There's a deal where when you search on Amazon, those items that come up on the first page tend to do the best. And they're there because more people have clicked on them.
Just a revelation that can be manipulated by individuals goes to this argument that it's only algorithms and things like that.
You can pay people to sit there and click on a product all day long.
Amazon
and then
employees, though, can manipulate
Well,
this.
that's what they're investigating. They're saying, is this, are we for sale? Because there are brokers now who go to you, Charles Payne, selling paint, And the broker will say, I've got a guy working at Amazon that can make sure the paint gets on the first page of the search. How much you want to pay up?
Right. Well, maybe some of their American workers who have food stamps may get the idea to do the same thing.
Well, there you go. But they're investigating.
All right, so there's another Amazon story we want to share, and then we'll get the investment pros' thoughts on all of this. They're opening up storefronts. You know, those new stores where customers shop exclusively from small and medium-sized businesses that sell on Amazon. Jeff, is this something of a peace offering, olive branch to these small companies who many have said, you know, the Amazon effect has been carnage for a lot of small businesses?
Yes, and keep in mind the greatest criticism against Amazon has been that they've annihilated a lot of small businesses, which they have. This is clearly an olive branch. This does give small business owners access to the platform and opens up to small businesses the vast number of prime customers, which allows small businesses to sell to people that they normally couldn't. This is a major, major initiative for Amazon. It's a victory for small businesses. People are going to, small businesses that can't afford to advertise, if they really learn this platform, they could make a lot of money.
You know, I want to go to you real quick, Scott, because last week, of course, we saw Jeff Bezos. He's starting to go on the offensive, right? Because you've got this tax named after him by Bernie Sanders. He's the richest man in the world by far. And he's saying, well, if the company's worth $1 trillion, I'm worth $160 billion. I created $840 billion in wealth for other Americans and other people. And there's some truth to that, but it's going to take a long time to add up all the wealth that was destroyed from him and all the hundreds of thousands of jobs. So would this peace offering work, do you think?
I'm not sure. I mean, the guy looks good, too. It looks like he's been spending a lot of time in the gym to boot. I'll tell you what's interesting, though, Charles. You know, I kind of agree with that comment that Sika made about destroying or annihilating small businesses. But I got to tell you guys, you know, I've got a handful of clients that have put products on Amazon that were small businesses that grew to medium-sized businesses because of the Amazon platform that found that outlet. And, you know, there's other places like Etsy that are doing well for those similar businesses, too, that are coexisting, if you will, on the Internet. So I'm just not so sure that Amazon has been that big of a destroyer. You know, there's all these antitrust talks, monopoly things, but they've increased convenience. They've lowered prices for consumers. They've provided more access to products. I'm still a believer in Amazon here, and that's why we own it.
I own the stock, but I do wonder, you know, I do believe eventually they'll face some sort of some administration, maybe not this one, but somewhere down the road, I think they'll face some antitrust pressures. And I think the tipping point was getting into Christmas trees, okay?
7-foot Christmas trees.
Yeah. Hey, by the way,
you got to stay away from holidays.
Yeah. You know, man, listen, people wait all year long for that Christmas tree gig. You can't take that money from them. They need it. All right, let's talk about another company in the hot seat, Twitter. Their chief, Jack Dorsey, says the company is so liberal that conservative employees don't feel safe to express their opinions. Scott, I mean, this is a hell of an admission.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, you know what's funny? When I think back in my life about times I've been scared to express myself, which has been rare, I'll be honest. But, you know, the desire to express yourself and the fear that one has to do that is a product of your environment, right? Like wherever you are, if you're behind enemy lines or if you're in the case of this, you know, in a liberal environment and you're a conservative and you're scared to do that's really a product of really where you are. And in this case, at Twitter. And now, unfortunately, from what we saw last week, maybe Google as well and some of the other social media companies, too, in Silicon Valley. So that's unfortunate because that situation is starting to come more and more to light these days, that this is a very liberal tilted area of the country.
But he does say it's not fair, nor is it right.
Sure.
But
so he's not saying it's something we just have to live with.
Right.
Yeah, and he's not doing anything about it. He is just saying it's happening. He's not willing to do it. I've spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley. I've actually gone into meetings.
What would you like him to do?
Yeah.
I would like him to, first of all, make sure that everybody there knows that they are practicing what they preach and conservatives are free to express their opinion with no threat of retaliation. And if he does that and stands by it and stands by the fact that he's okay to say that he doesn't agree with anything.
Sure.
But he's not okay to let any of his employees retaliate against people as if they're standing on Jack Dorsey's side.
Right. You know, I'll tell you, I met with Jack Dorsey twice, and you know, it seems like he's looking for these answers. But I'm glad at least he admits that there are problems. There are people who are saying that this doesn't exist. So it's good to hear it come straight from him.